Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Courtside Soundoff podcast again. Here with Angel Ortega. I'm Josh Evanoff. We have a lot to talk about this week, so I'm just going to skip all of the stuff. But not going to skip Amazon, because Amazon is the number one online store today and has been for years. It's back with games, books, movies. It's all is Amazon.com. By the link on our Podbean page with the YouTube page. It helps support the podcast. So, like to support us or get something you want, by the link, it helps us. You can help yourself as well. Yeah, really busy week this week. A lot of stuff to talk about. UFC. NBA, a little bit of NBA news, boxing, some tragic news in the world of boxing, Big Three news, personal stuff of the Big Three. I'm assuming Angel will want to give his thoughts since he could not, because I kind of the special episode or whatever, I kind of just threw myself in there for like little bits, but he didn't get to talk that much about it, so I guess we could do that this week. But first we got to start off as always. We have structure because we are a structured podcast. UC San Antonio. I ended up actually seeing this card live. I did not think I would, but I ended up seeing it live. There were a couple fights I want to talk about. For the record, yeah, it did break the UFC's consecutive decision streak. I believe there were 9 to start the card, but then there were 3 first-round finishes, all in the span of about a combined 4 minutes, which was incredible. I'll start off from the bottom. Dan Hooker defeating James Vick via KO. James Vick's now moving up to welterweight, which is probably where he should be. He's a massive guy at lightweight, and it seems like the weight cutting is taking a toll on his chin. Dan Hooker's not a guy with a bunch of knockout power. He gets finishes, but in kind of weird ways, and Dan Hooker knocked him out cold. I believe this is like his second out of third fight that like James Vick has been knocked out brutally. So he should probably move up with welterweight, which he's going to be doing. Greg Hardy defeating Juan Adams and the battle of heavyweight prospects in the battle of good versus evil. Greg Hardy, former NFL All-Pro. I picked him. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people thought Juan Adams, he's looked really good. Probably should be undefeated going into this fight, but he was not. Listen, man, his fights are so weird. All of Greg Hardy's UFC fights are so weird. Like Alan Crowder, he got DQ'd after winning pretty much the majority of the fight. Dmitry Smolikov, he kind of didn't. He threw about 3 punches, and then after it did not work, he kind of just ran and like went to the ground and panicked and got finished. Juan Adams went in for a single leg on him, got Hardy hit him with the whizzer, got on top, and Adams was looking for the single leg, but he couldn't get it, and so we took about 45. I believe the actual number is 26 punches to the head while not moving at all, and the fight ended up getting stopped by Big Tan Dan Miragliotta, which it should have. Good win for Hardy. As much as people hate him, he's going to be around here for a while, in my opinion. He's a really good prospect, and he's got to remember, he's only been training in MMA for 2 years. He's going to get so much better. I mean, he's already at that UFC level and beating UFC competition. Co-main event, I said on the podcast probably at the start of the year, Walt Harris is my dark horse in the heavyweight division. And now he just beat Alexei Oleinik, who is a top 10 guy, just fought over him. Walt Harris beat him in 12 seconds. And that is the 3rd fastest heavyweight knockout in UFC history. Listen, man, I'm not sure how much you can say about this guy. Currently unbeaten in his last 4. Beat Daniel Spitz, Andrei Arlovski, Sergey Spivak, and Alexei Oleinik. 3 of those via knockout. The guy is really good. He's still getting better. He really should not be as good as he is. He's 37, I believe, 36, 37. He's never been that spectacular, but in like his last couple of fights, he's really put it together. And he's looking phenomenal, and I've got to give full credit to Walt Harris. He's my dark horse still in the heavyweight division. The main event, kind of a boring fight, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but very much a tactical affair. The crowd and I probably got spoiled by the previous 3 fights, which were all first-round knockouts. But a very tactical, good win, dominating performance by Leon Edwards. He utilizes the elbows a lot, cut RDA up, and really just an all-around good performance. He called out Jorge Masvidal after the fight. Not going to happen, but I think that was a good call. Regardless, Angel, do you have any thoughts? Did you see any of the main card of UFC San Antonio?
I had the pleasure of watching the last 3 fights, the 3 that mattered. No, I'm just kidding. They all matter, but I had a lot of fun. Dude, the man Greg Hardy won. I called that. I was happy about that. To use some fucking WWE terminology here, he used that fucking reversal on the main man Juan Adams on the way down. That was fucking beautiful. So that was cool to watch. Repeatedly hit him to this, what was it, the side of the head, hit the ear a lot. Dude, he got fucked up real quick. I didn't expect it to be that. I was like, oh shit, this is about to be a fucking war. I turned it on. I'm like, oh, I just got here in time, cause, this was the day it was the day of the big 3, right? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
And when I finally ended up getting home, it was a little bit while, like it was quite a while afterwards. And then I fell asleep, woke up, was still tired, turned on UFC, was trying to watch boxing at the same time to see what was going on there, flipping back and forth. I wasn't tired at that point. Ended up watching the fight. Ended in a matter of seconds, which I didn't expect. Which, I mean, during those couple seconds, I guess I was entertained. I can't complain too much. I think the more important thing is that I was entertained the entire time. Like I said, I did love that reversal on the man. I was like, fuck, it's going to the ground. Juan's going to out-wrestle his ass. This shit's going to be on the ground the entire time. But no, the man, I guess, defended well against it, So that was good for him. And then Walt Harris. Holy fuck, dude. Once again, I'm still there just, I got here late. I guess, man, okay, let's see how long these, okay, so I started watching the next fight. And then this man just jumps up in the air. Man goes down and just starts fucking pounding on his ass. And I'm like, shit, this shit's ending real quick right now. But it was entertaining. I guess there's not much to talk about when it ends real quick. And then I ended up watching the RDA fight and Leon Edwards fight as well, which I thought was very entertaining, even though it lasted quite some time. I had fun watching the elbows being thrown. And then obviously, like you mentioned, the man got cut. There were some worries about it. I think mid-fight, it might have potentially got stopped. I didn't think it was that bad. They were able to clean him up nicely. I thought it was entertaining. Leon looked great. That man is going to get a big fight here soon.
As he should. Really quickly to go back to Walt Harris, I actually walked out of my room to go get a water, and by the time I came back, the fight was over. I just saw Walt Harris jumping around celebrating. I'm like, oh, well, wonderful. Definitely really, really crazy. So, I believe this is a big pay-per-view week. I always really look forward to pay-per-view cards more than I guess ESPN or ESPN Plus cards. They just feel like kind of a special, bigger deal because it's like, to get title fight, maybe 2 title fights. I'll be honest with you guys though, this card is not that stacked. It's not a UFC 239 card. It's not a UFC 238 card. The UFC 241 is in like less than a month, and I'm super excited for that one. However, we've got in the main event Max Blessed Holloway. He was coming off a loss to Dustin Poirier, UFC 236, and making a quick turnaround to defend his title. Frankie, the Answer Edgar. This fight's been scheduled, I believe 3 times before this fight's actually going to happen. They've just weighed in, actually, right now as we're recording. Both made weight. Max is coming in on, I believe, a 11-fight win streak at featherweight, but don't quote me on that. It might be more than 11. It's some crazy, really crazy number. But he's beaten a lot of guys in a row. And Frankie Edgar, he has not fought in a while. Last beat Cub Swanson. Before that, he was scheduled to fight Max. Max pulled out. He still took the fight against Brian Ortega. And then he lost via knockout in the first round. First time he's ever been finished. But regardless, he's still coming in on a, won 3 of his last 4 fights. Been Jeremy Stevens, Yair Rodriguez, and Cub Swanson. A lot of controversy about this fight. About does he deserve a title shot? I think he does. He took the fight against Ortega when he didn't have to. He's waited around long enough. And the Volkanovski thing, Volkanovski should have been the title contender, but he had a blood infection, so he was on the shelf for a while. He's fine now, but he would not have been able to have the training if he was, having the infection. So, in the co-main event, Cyborg Spencer. Actually, I'll give my main event prediction real quick. Holloway's gonna win. I'm not really sure how. Frankie Edgar is the best wrestler he's faced. However, Max Holloway has incredibly good takedown defense, and if you take him to the ground, he has really great jiu-jitsu, very underrated jiu-jitsu. He dominated Jose Aldo on the ground, and Jose Aldo is really a super underrated black belt in his own right, and Max Holloway just cut through him like sliced bread. And he's so good on the ground. He's really underrated. Dustin Poirier, who's much bigger than Frankie Edgar and still a decent wrestler in his own right, could not take Holloway down in their 5-round title fight earlier this year. I don't think Edgar's going to be able to take him down that many times. If so, he won't be able to keep him down. Holloway's going to be much bigger. I'm going to pick Holloway by decision, or Holloway via late finish or decision. Co-main event, Chris Cyborg, Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer, former Invicta featherweight champion. Really underrated girl. A lot of people are just overlooking her in this fight. She has a really great chin. Megan Anderson tagged her a couple times in their fight. And she took them all. And Megan Anderson hits really hard. Rocked Holly home, in their fight. Megan hits really hard. Felicia took all of her punches in stride. Former Invicta champion, beat Pam Bam Sorensen. Outside of that, not very tested. But regardless, she's here. She's facing Chris Cyborg in the co-main event. Cyborg, we all know, lost her title to Amanda Nunes, last year, UFC 232, I believe. First loss in over a decade. Lost UFC women's featherweight title. Last fight on her UFC contract. If she loses, it's a big deal. We don't know where she'll go. Actually, even if she wins, we don't know where she'll go. She's been talking a lot about Bellator lately. There's been a lot of talk about Amanda Nunes rematching her. I do think she wins here, but I don't think she leaves the UFC. We've been in this position before with Cyborg after UFC 219, actually. She did not leave. I think she stays again. And then there's not a whole lot to talk about on this card. I guess Angel can make his prediction in a second. But real quick, my fight to watch is Jeff Neal versus Nico Price. In terms of prospects at welterweight, these are probably two of my favorite guys. Their fights are always super fun to watch. Jeff Neal, 11-2, undefeated in the UFC, 3 wins in a row, 2 of which are not finishes. One was a dominating performance over Bilal Muhammad, and Bilal Muhammad is a really good underrated guy at welterweight. He knocked out Frank Camacho, and Frank Camacho is an excellent fighter and only getting better. Brian Camozzi, he dominated the brother Chris Camozzi. And then Nico Price is probably one of the hardest hitters at 170. I believe every single one of his fights in the UFC have come in via finish. Beat Brandon Thrash, Alex Moreno, Alan Joban, all via finish. He ended up losing to Vicente Luque, which happens, and then he submitted George Sullivan, knocked out Randy Brown, lost to Abdul Hazak Al Hassan, who was one of my favorites at welterweight before the whole rape thing. And then he knocked out Tim Means earlier this year, broke his leg in the process. So that's my fight to watch. If I had to pick, I'm going to pick Jeff Neal here. I think he's just a lot more tactical. But also Nico Price has incredible power, and we'll see what happens. I guarantee you that fight ends in a finish. Angel, do you have predictions for the top 2 fights, UFC 240?
Dude, Max gave us a good-ass fight not that long ago. I expect another good fight. Now, granted, at the same level, I mean, who knows, right? Anything can happen. It's the goddamn UFC. We found that out last card. I mean, I guess we find that out every card. But this man's a fucking beast, man. This man's a savage. Also, dude, the fucking height difference. Like, I saw them, right? That looked pretty big, at least to me personally.
It's 5 inches.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That's a lot in my opinion. That's almost half a foot in difference. So, I don't know. You know, obviously, at the end of the day, you know these guys a little bit better than me at the more tactical level. Obviously, I've seen Max fight a couple times now. Every time it's been amazing. So I guess I'm going to go with Max. And then, I didn't, so when Felicia fought, I did not want to see that card. Like, I literally said, this card is so shitty. It was 152. It was a fight week not too long ago. And I was like, this looks like fucking ass. I'm not going to watch it. And I didn't end up watching it. So I missed out on that. I probably would have gave me a little bit more preparation for this. But yeah. And then, like, it's Chris Cyborg, man. How am I supposed to bet against Chris Cyborg when she only lost, what was it, her debut fight? And to Amanda Nunes, right? There's the 2 ever losses on her record.
Correct.
The 2 only stains. How do I bet against that in this fight? You know, I feel like personally, like, unless this girl's just that much better or that good, like, and I haven't seen her, right? So I guess I can't really make like a super good prediction to that extent. I guess I'll find out after, watching it. To me, it's like I can't really bet against against Chris at this point in time when she's only had those two losses, and when in reality it's probably only one loss, right? And that one loss is to Amanda Nunes, probably, if not the best or most dominant women fighter of all time. So yeah, I got to go to Chris just because I can't argue with the facts that are on the table.
Fair enough. Yeah, a good top 2 fights. I think Felicia Spencer is pretty underrated, but I don't think she presents enough challenges for Chris Cyborg. I think that she's pretty big in size for 145. And she's a really, really good grappler, but also I think Cyborg is gonna go out there and probably get a finish, but I would not be surprised if Spencer wins. A lot of people are really, really overlooking her. And I think that, like, as far as past Cyborg opponents, she ranks very, very high at the top of the list because, Cyborg, this isn't a shot at her, but a lot of her competition has been very, very, lesser, so to speak. Not very high level competition, and Felicia Spencer's a very, very good fighter. And so we'll see what happens. I would not be surprised if she wins, and I really want to go for the upset pick, but I'm not feeling it, man. I'm just not feeling it. I do think Cyborg's going to win, but I think Felicia Spencer's going to make a very good account of herself.
You wouldn't put money on it?
I would not put. Depends on how much money, actually. I have to see the odds. If the odds are good enough, I'd throw a tenner on it.
All I'm saying is we could have made money from the Uriah Faber, prediction. That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
Yeah, and the Cowboy won that a little while back. I'm just saying.
All right. Cool guy of the week is John Jones. John Jones, UFC light heavyweight champion, just got done fighting Thiago Santos. Also apparently does not like to pay his bills at strip clubs, because he's currently, has a battery charge against him. A very bizarre case, but I think it's really, really funny. This is exactly coming from TMZ and a bunch of other sources. Jones allegedly made unwanted advances towards a cocktail waitress, at a strip club, and he put her in a tight rear naked chokehold, picked her off the ground, spun her around, quote, like a wrestling match. His accuser then claims, quote, piece of shit Jones placed her on the bar and slapped her vagina. Something that apparently requires a $100 deposit that he refused to pay. This now increases John Jones' Wikipedia page controversies to, I believe, 4 or 5 or 6 or however many. It's really kind of funny. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think it's really, really funny. Yeah, but it does it's more John Jones stuff. It's only a misdemeanor. It probably won't affect when he fights. Which, by the way, is going to happen in the next New York card. I think it's either November or December. Corey Anderson is currently in the running for that. 3-fight winning streak, very good wrestler. Going to get dominated by John Jones. Apparently Thiago Santos said he wants the John Jones rematch after his knees heal up. That's from only a couple hours ago. By the way, it's both knees, which is crazy to me. It's not just one knee. He tore his meniscus and also his other knee. So, poor guy, man. Poor Thiago Santos. I feel really bad for that guy. I'm sure he'll get that rematch whenever he does heal up, but that probably won't be for like a year. And John Jones has to fight in the meantime, and I believe he's going to fight Corey Anderson. Ariel Helwani said that he's apparently the number one person in the running to fight John Jones this year. That fight probably happened at MSG. I'm expecting John Jones to dominate there. Now, I believe that ends us with MMA talk. Very packed week. But there's a little bit of NBA news, not a whole lot, but a little bit. Tim Duncan is going to be an assistant coach with the Spurs. Timmy is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like we all kind of knew that Tim Duncan was the type of guy that would make like a really, really good coach, just because of like, just how smart he is and his knowledge and love for the game. And here he is. Apparently, for what it's worth, apparently the Spurs approached Manu Ginobili prior to approaching Tim Duncan. But apparently Tim's going to be assistant coach, first year. Angel, what do you think about Timmy joining the Spurs to join, Pop's coaching staff?
First of all, it won't be too long from now when we won't have Pop, around coaching, not in general, just not coaching. Just because I think he's getting to that point in life where I think probably he's satisfied with his career. He's ready to just kind of be done with everything. He lost his wife not too long ago. I think, was it before the season started or some point near the? I know it was
right. You know that year they played the Warriors in the first round without Kawhi? It was that year. Right before the playoffs started.
So yeah, and then he still continued to coach when he didn't have to. And I'm not saying that Tim will eventually become, who takes over, but I think he's trying to get people there who understand the culture, understand, that Spurs style, and obviously getting one of your, first of all, probably, I'd probably say you're one of your most successful players, right? Like, under the Spurs brand.
I'd say probably the most successful.
Yeah. And, and obviously being, in that, top, 50 to 100 best players of all time. And then obviously being coached under him, knowing him, being easy to understand, knows staff, knows the building, knows everything. It's kind of just generally a good pickup. And it's a guy who's really smart, gets being a player, and knows, obviously, the ins and outs of, the style of basketball they play. And can probably, help the culture advance, whenever they, change to, maybe their play style or something, I think this is just like the perfect thing to do. And plus that, the people love him, so there's just so much positive coming from this pickup. And he's only coming in as an assistant. I mean, that's a pretty big role. I'll say that. Obviously, that's a pretty big role, but it's not like he's a offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, a guy who will bring Pop a lot of massive plays, in crunch time. But definitely a guy who will give a lot of input, and and who has people, and has played against a lot of guys in the league right now. And you can probably point out some weaknesses that he still sees or something, small stuff like that. So all around, I think it's a good pickup.
I agree. I think you make a good point about how he's trying to bring somebody in that knows the culture, because the Spurs culture is all about winning. It's about kind of class. And I think Tim Duncan's that type of guy that displays it perfectly, and he's kind of that guy from that era. Obviously, you have Tony Parker and Manu and stuff like that, but I feel like Tim's kind of the best. Of that time period, he was kind of always the leader. The guy up there that was always the best in the team, and he was good for so long too, and he's had such a good mind for the game. I think he's a really, really, really good pickup for the Spurs. I think he's definitely. I'm not sure if he'll pick up after Pop leaves, but I definitely think there's a decent chance of that happening. I would not be surprised. But do you have anything else to say about this before we move on to our next topic?
No, I mean, I just hope we see I hope we see him there, see him in the huddle, he is being utilized. It's not just being used for attention or anything, because, that's not something that is impossible that could happen. I do definitely I want him to be part of the team, and just not an image. That's all kind of the one important thing to me.
Yeah. I guess we should move on to our next topic. The Clippers officially held their press conference where they announced this, the signing of Kawhi and the, trade for Paul George, introduced them to the team, to the organization. Kawhi talked a lot, which was really uncharacteristic. They kind of talked about how they came together, and also, Paul George said something that I think was really, really interesting. He said that the Thunder trade was mutual, which, Sam Presti, GM for the Thunder, came out and said, I mean, not really. I mean, he came out and denied, George claimed that the Thunder wanted to trade him. And, Sam Presti came out and said that was not true. He was like, he disagreed, he expressed his appreciation for Paul George, but he also said, like, it was not adversarial at all, and I fully respect the way that it was handled. And the fact they were able to make it, like, beneficial for the franchise. But also, it was not something they wanted to do. Like, believe it or not, the Oklahoma City Thunder were not looking forward to trading an MVP candidate and Defensive Player of the Year candidate, just 1 year removed. I know that's crazy. I know it's hard to believe for some people. But they didn't want to do it. And that ended up just spawning to us trading Russell and going through a rebuild that, like, we didn't want to have to do this. It's not something that we wanted to do. Like, everyone's like, oh, this is a good thing for the Thunder, Paul George requesting a trade, they can get around to rebuilding. We didn't want to rebuild. The West is completely open this year. If this was a year for, like, if anything, I feel like we should have rebuilt after, like, next year. Give him one more chance. Paul George had surgery to both shoulders after the offseason. Russell was playing hurt as well. We didn't have Roberson. Just a lot of things, and then, we don't want to trade a guy after an MVP candidate 1 year after signing a 4-year contract. So, Angel, do you have any thoughts about the Clippers like what they said, the press conference in general?
Okay, this is true. Like, I actually believe this. During the press conference, someone mentioned, how does it feel, or something along the lines of, the Clippers being like the little brother to the big brother of, the Lakers, right? Or something along the lines of that, or, the Lakers being above the Clippers, something along the lines of that. You could probably find this online somewhere in the press conference. And Kawhi responded with, well, basketball-wise, the Clippers have been significantly better than the Lakers, which is honestly true. I mean, obviously, they had the remains of Kobe for quite a while, and even post that, they were trying to, rebuild. And in that time, the Clippers were winning. Obviously, they weren't having the greatest success, but they were doing better than the Lakers for the most part. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it's not like they were, winning, going to the finals, but they were doing better.
Yeah. I mean, they were doing better, but also that's it. The time period of which they were doing better was so small and isolated compared to the Lakers' entire history.
True, but, you can say that for a lot of teams.
Yeah, but, like, the time period of Clippers being good has really only been the last, 6-7 years, and the Lakers were good for fucking half a century.
Well, no, but granted, he did, he did say as of recently, it wasn't like...
fair enough.
Because he said, well, as of recently, or in recent years, something along the lines of that. The thing is, it was quoted like that. He just said they were good as of now, or at this, especially currently. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that he said that. It's an interesting question from the press. I will talk more about my opinions about the press later during the podcast. I have some thoughts.
Press member of the press, Angel Ortega, will give us thoughts later.
Yeah, so unqualified, but I love it.
Yeah, I guess that kind of moves us along to boxing. Really, really big week for boxing in general. There was some tragic news, some sad news, some uplifting news. So I guess we'll get into the good first of 40, slowly downturn and get into the bad. Manny Pacquiao, that man is 40 years of age, and he knocked down Keith Thurman in the first round, and he went on to get a split decision victory, and really should have been a unanimous decision. I've yet to find anybody outside of the one judge that thought Keith Thurman won, but regardless, that's fine.
There's people out there. There's people out there. Let me tell you this before you continue. I'm sorry for cutting you off. There is people out there who do believe Keith won the fight.
Really?
Yes, there's people
no way.
out. I listened to another podcast. I'm not going to promote them right now because they haven't paid me, but they know who they are, who talk about boxing. And on their podcast, they have a number available where people can call in during the live show because they do a live show. And people went on there saying, Keith won. Keith, and there was a couple. It wasn't like a crazy amount, but they actually like argued. They were arguing that Keith won the fight. He came back. Manny did take some rounds, obviously, but Keith looked good near the end. The split decision makes sense, but it should have been a split decision for Keith, and Keith's a fucking warrior. Whatever. Let's say shit like that. I thought Manny won the fight, though, personally. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
I thought it was a very clear win for Manny, actually.
I think, but like I told you, I think when it comes to boxing, people, it's because the way boxing is scored is like, defense, control the ring, offense, right? And then, like, especially with the round system, right? Where it's, you give the win based off the round and not the overall fight, you know what I mean? Because someone could win a fight, but not win the overall fight. You know what I mean? But have the rounds, which I mean is fucking aggravating to think about, but that's a reality.
Yeah, I mean, but also, you can score it however you want. I'm not going to get mad at it. I'm not going to get angry because really, as long as you're not a judge and they get the right decision, that's what matters. But like, I don't really see how Keith Thurman won. Like, I feel like we all kind of have the understanding that of the first 6 rounds, at least 4. At the minimum 4, and you could argue 5. You can argue that he won all 6 if you wanted to. But at the very least, Manny took at least 4 or 5 of those first 6 rounds, right?
Oh, no, I 100% agree. There was a point when Keith started doing better, like without a doubt, which was...
I'd say after the 6th round.
It was after the 6th round or some point, like, in the 6th round.
And then he did, in case you're wondering how I scored it, I gave like rounds, I can't remember how many, but I gave 5 of the first 6 to Pacquiao, and then I gave 7, 8, and 9 to Keith, and then I gave 10, 11, and 12 to Pacquiao. That was how I scored it. I believe. I think.
I mean, either way, I thought Manny won. And I thought it was unanimous. Like, when I heard split, I was like, oh, fuck, they're about to rob the man.
They really are. They're really about to do it again.
Like, I heard the split, and I was like, shit, this is really going to be a robbery right now. It ended up being a robbery.
Thank
but,
God.
When they said Keith's name first, even then I wasn't relieved still.
Yeah, I was really, really frightened whenever I heard the split. Because I thought it was a pretty clear win. But, I've been wrong before. Regardless, it was a really good performance by Manny. We'll see where he goes from here, because they're talking about him and Floyd are going back and forth on social media, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, please stop. Please stop. I don't want to see it again. Like, if maybe the rematch could be a lot better, because they're both an older age now, much more closer and competitive. But also, I feel like Floyd is a very smart guy, and he's not going to come out of retirement to, risk his 50-0, which, by the way, 50-0, that's the perfect way to retire on. And I think Floyd knows that. But there's talk of other fights for Manny. I don't know where I want to see him go from here. Regardless, he showed that, he's still at the top of the level, man. He's still so good.
You're talking about, talk about the Earl Spence fight.
Yeah.
But we already saw how that fight went with a shorter opponent, so I don't know how that's going to go for Manny. Granted, Manny's already had that experience where he's fought someone at that height. But yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon because we already have. And anyways, Manny said he wouldn't fight again, but apparently there's some rumors out there or some potential of the Amir Khan fight over there in, is it Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's Saudi Arabia. And by the way, the only person that has said that has been Amir Khan.
Yeah.
Amir Khan said, we're going to fight after that. After Pacquiao fights Thurman, and Pacquiao's team came out and was like, what? What's happening?
It's still out there, though. It's on the table. But yeah, the main thing right now is the Earl Spence and Sean Porter fight. That's on the table. I'm guessing whoever comes out of that probably is going to fight Manny next, I imagine, unless Manny just says fuck it and moves down and maybe gives us a super fight at lightweight versus Lomachenko, which would be the dream. But I don't think that's going to happen. I just said that because I wanted to say it. No one's ever talked about that, but I just wanted to say it. But yeah, no, Yeah, I just wanted to say it, but yeah, it's the Earl Spence Sean Porter win. Like whoever wins that, I think gets the fight against Manny next. If they're able to set it up, who knows if they will. I imagine Earl comes out of that fight winning. Just gonna put that out there now.
I think, I agree on Earl winning. Also, I think he finishes Pacquiao if they fight.
We'll see.
I don't think he just. I think he finishes him.
He didn't finish Mikey.
Yeah, that's true, but Mikey's a lot younger, and Pacquiao took some really hard punches from Thurman in that fight. I wonder how that's going to affect his chin. You know?
I don't know. Manny still looks pretty good, man. It's kind of weird. The man looks the same as he did when he fought Manny.
Yeah, but
so long ago now.
Yeah, but he also went through a war, so we'll see how much that affects his chin. Is kind of my point.
True. I'll give him this though. It wasn't one of those like losing part of your soul type of fights, in my opinion, though. Like, yeah. So I mean, it was still probably a good fight, but I don't think he's gonna come out of it fucking damaged, you know, where he needs like a year off. Like, I think he should be fine to. Well, he should be able to fight next year, with no issue. But opponent-wise, I mean, I guess that's exciting. I don't think he's gonna fight Bud anytime soon. And I don't think Bud's gonna fight anybody else who's top ranked in that division for a while. Maybe someone else, but I don't think he's gonna fight Sean or Earl anytime soon because obviously they're fighting each other. Unless we completely get fucked over and they'll get Manny versus Earl or Sean, and instead we get the winner of Earl and Sean versus Crawford, which, not gonna lie, that actually sounds a little bit more entertaining. So, I think I'd be a little bit more excited for that than Manny versus any of them. I don't know what's next for Manny. Manny's in an interesting position. He's not young at all. He's actually very old. So, but he just won a big fight. So, going forward, I'm not quite sure what his plans are. He could, like I said, let me check a super fight. Like, come on, guys, can we get that set up? Like, I'd like to see that.
I mean, I'd watch it.
I'd watch it. Would I pay for it? Probably. Would that be a smart decision? Probably not. But I would still pay for it.
Apparently, speaking of people buying it, 500,000 people bought the Pacquiao Thurman pay-per-view. I just saw that. Yeah.
I think they sold out the arena though, didn't they?
They did, I believe so.
Yeah, so that's always good. Going on to other news though, what else do we have on the agenda?
Dillian White beat Oscar Rivas. It was a really, really fun fight. But apparently before the fight, we did not find out till after the fight, Dillian White tested positive. That juicy man tested positive. And the UK and their commission let him fight. Which is a big, big deal.
So what happens now, Josh? What did they do? Did they take this one away?
Well, here's the thing. The UK and that commission, they were aware of this before the fight. This is the second time Dillian White has been caught using performance-enhancing drugs. You know what I want to happen, and what I think should happen, is he should be stripped and he should be suspended. However, boxing does not take, does not take this whole thing very seriously, especially in the UK. Very, very, what's the word? Bias, maybe? I don't know. That might be the wrong word. Towards their fighters. Listen, man, that fight should not have been allowed to happen. And it's really embarrassing that it did. On behalf of the UK and the commission over there, very, very embarrassing. Yeah, he should not have been allowed to fight. I don't think anything's going to happen, though. If they allowed him to fight with a banned substance in the system and they knew about it beforehand, nothing's going to happen. He got the title shot. What is it with Deontay Wilder's opponents, by the way? What is with it in Deontay Wilder's, mandatories testing positive for drugs all the time. Like between Luis Ortiz and I believe he was supposed to fight Povetkin at one point, and he tested positive, and now Dillian White. It just seems like everybody is testing positive. For the record, he tested positive for, oh man, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Wow, hold on.
What does it do? What does it do? That's a better question. What does it do? Like, what does
I'm gonna Google it in a second. I gotta send this to you so you can try and say this word. Methylexion. Maybe. I want you to try and pronounce this word.
I'll post it here in the chat. I want to see this. I'm curious now.
What is it with, by the way, what is it with steroids and having ridiculous names? Why can't they just have like a super simple name? You know what I mean?
What kind of name would you give it?
Roy Juice.
Juice. The juice is on the loose. Let me see this. What is that? Methylene hexamine? Something like that. Methyl. Well, I know it's methyl at the start. Because that's methyl, so that's methylhexamine. It's something like that. Let's put it into what is it called? Google Translate and have her speak it. Just out of curiosity. But in the meantime, look up what it is because I'm very curious what it does.
Yeah, it's a dietary supplement. It is a symptomatic drug. It's a stimulant, and has been banned by basically. It's been warned against by the FDA, and has been banned by basically the World Anti-Doping Agency. Boxers have been caught with it before. Brandon Rios was caught after losing to Pacquiao a couple of years ago for using it. It's apparently a very popular one, despite it being banned by the Anti-Doping Agency and all that stuff. But apparently it didn't really matter. It has a half-life of 8.5 hours. Yeah, it didn't really matter because they let him fight on anyways. So that's just ridiculous. That is so embarrassing. What a just garbage commission. What a complete farce. Like I've got to wonder. Like let's say that fight happens and Oscar Rivas. God, this is a horrible topic considering what we're about to talk about next. Let's say that happens and Oscar Rivas dies. You know whose fault that is? That's the commission for letting somebody that's clearly on the juice fight. This is not the first time that Dillian White has been caught either. He got suspended once for 2 years. And you know this. He tested positive 3 days out. They knew. And they just let it happen. That is so embarrassing. That's ridiculous.
Also, I put it through Google Translate and it said methylene sanamine.
Well, that's surprisingly easier to pronounce than I thought it would be.
Granted, it was Google Translate, but hey, fuck it.
Yeah.
We'll go with it. This is some fuckery. That's all I'm gonna say.
Massive.
Well, I mean, when you sent me that, I texted you, and I was like, at least he doesn't have to wait like 3 years for his super fight now. So, it is what it is. Because the man Wilder's got 2 fights lined up right now, and it's probably going to be a minute before he fights another big guy after that.
Yeah.
So let it be.
Anyways, I guess that kind of wraps up that part. And now we have some tragic news. Maxim Dadashev, a Russian boxer, fighting on, he fought Sabril Matalas as a part of a top rank, card on ESPN in Maryland. It was an international, welterweight title elimination bout. And he lost via stoppage after his trainer asked the referee to stop. And it was very, very sad. Apparently he considered, like his trainer said afterwards, that he thought he should have done it two rounds later. He needed help to get out of the ring. And he was unable to make it to the dressing room before he collapsed and vomited into the corridor. He was rushed to the hospital, where he was diagnosed with a subdural hematoma and underwent emergency surgery to stop the bleeding. He was then placed in an induced coma to try to allow the swelling in his brain to subside. However, his condition worsened, and I believe only 4 days after the fight, he died. And this sadly is something that's not uncommon in the world of boxing. Another boxer who I do not have his name right now, so unfortunately I can't, talk about his situation. He passed away after a fight also this week. Yeah, it's very, very depressing, very, very sad.
I got the news on it. His name is Hugo Santalan's Argentinian fighter. Well, boxer, I should say. There you go.
Yeah.
In the ring, he collapsed, by the way, quick thing.
Yeah, this is something that's not that uncommon in the world of boxing. It used to happen a lot more in the old days. By the old days, I mean whenever they had 15 rounds, and before that they had extreme amount, like 45 rounds, something crazy. They used to have crazy stuff in the early 1900s, but 15 rounds is kind of the common thing up until like the 80s, where a lot of boxers died and getting injured and major brain damage. Listen, man, it's really, really depressing. Very, very sad. This is a big card on ESPN. Had a lot of spotlight on it, and then he passed away. I'm really at like a loss for words, really, because this is kind of a fun podcast. We kind of talk about not that serious stuff. We talk about boxing, stuff like that. And I don't know. It's really sad news. So if there's like a good thing, I saw that the r/boxing subreddit on Reddit had a link to, I believe, a GoFundMe or something along those lines for his family. It was like an official fundraiser by Top Rank, and he leaves behind a wife and a child. And he was only 14 fights into his career. So if you want to go donate to that, it'd be very appreciative. I'm sure his family would be very appreciative. So there you go. Yeah. You got anything to say, Angel?
No, you're right. I think it's a big shock, but it's not like it's something that isn't incredibly possible from happening. It's not a sport like it's something that is 100% not going to happen. There's only like a 2% chance. It's something that is very possible every time you go into the ring.
Yeah.
A lot of media is surprised. They're almost like, there's been like, what needs to change? It's like, there's really not much we can do. It's been happening forever, and it's just a rare occurrence. It doesn't always happen. It's just like, it was just the fact that it was one, and it was a guy that was, at the higher levels, more known, and then when it happened, another one. Literally is, what is it, same week, right? Matter of days. This one got announced. I think it was a day or two ago when they talked about Hugo's. And let me see. Let me pull up I have a text between me and my dad, and it was something along the. He texted me. He was just asking me how it was, and then we talked about some other stuff like sports related stuff. And he told me, "Hey, did you hear about the boxer who died?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I feel bad," whatever, right? And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, he said, but I don't think that he was, in his text he told me, he's like, I don't think a lot of athletes, it was basically along the lines of athletes are stronger nowadays, and he's like, there's been a lot of more deaths in the last couple of years, and I'm like, no, not really. I think it's quite the opposite. There really isn't that many deaths like there used to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they've just become more publicized.
I think that's what it is. It's just more, obviously, it is a big deal. When someone dies, in any sport, it should be a big deal because no one should die, doing something they like, and especially something fun they like watching. And obviously we talk about all the there's a lot of talk about the gladiator, type mentality in the ring, and it being a to a certain extent, pretty savage sport. Ah, man, it's just, I mean, what can you do at this point? I mean, it's something that it's just part of this. Obviously, it's not healthy to get repeatedly hit in the head. You know, that's it. There's no thing in any health book that says it is healthy to get hit in the head repeatedly. You know,
Yeah.
so that's the one thing. You know, the only thing they could change is literally getting rid of the sport, and that's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. You know, because there's plenty of guys who go on live healthy lives after their boxing career, and then there's the opposite end where there's guys who go back and don't live a healthy life after boxing. They aren't the same. They can't function like how they used to when they were younger because they're taking so much damage to the head. I mean, obviously, I wish there was a world where, you know, obviously no one would get hurt, no one would suffer anything. Maybe one day we'll have some sort of special technology that will help keep these guys, you know, help them recover after fights, you know, maintain the health of their brain and not take so much damage to the body or to the head. But now we have to deal with this, you know, and then obviously it's sad because it's a man with a family. No one ever wants to leave a family behind, and especially under these circumstances. I mean, this man's probably idolized by his kids for what he does, and then you know, I'm guessing his wife maybe feels maybe the same way she appreciates, you know, his line of work, but then at the same time she doesn't like exactly what he does because of the risk he takes, and obviously now those risks, you know, came back and, you know, hurt him. You know, going forward, you know, obviously I can only hope for technology to get better. I can only hope for corners to get better and stop fights sooner. I mean, obviously, I get why a corner doesn't want to stop a fight early on. They just hope that, you know, they want to give their boxers that chance and that dignity to keep fighting on. But at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is obviously keeping your boxer healthy. And I think, you know, and it wasn't even that long ago. A couple of boxing matches back, I think when I talked about this, I'm like, see, you know, it was, you know what it was? It was the Lomachenko fight. It was the Lomachenko fight when I told you, you know, as you know, coaches have the responsibility to protect their boxers, and, you know, I commended, it was Anthony Corolla. I commended Anthony Corolla's corner for, you know, I'm pretty sure they stopped the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was them. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the fight I'm thinking about. They stopped the fight, and, you know, I think that was the right thing to do, and it's crazy we talked about that not too long ago, and then obviously now this happens, and it's just bad news bears, man. No one ever wants to see this happen, like I said. Hopefully nothing else happens this year at all. Hopefully no one gets hurt, no one takes any damage. No more lives lost. Hopefully no lives are ever lost after this day in boxing, but, you know, I can't make that promise, you know. It's just, it might happen, it might not. You know, obviously, you know, if there's anybody out there who's a young boxer, a young coach, or whatever, protect yourself at all times, as they say at the start of the fight, and, you know, and protect your boxers at all time. Your athlete is everything to you. Your body's everything. Your mind's everything to you. So, just stay healthy, man. It's the one thing I could say. Outside of that, there's nothing else I want to make a comment. I just kind of want to get off the topic at this point, just because it sucks.
Yeah. But keeping within the boxing realm, Gervonta Davis, you know, 21-0, very, very good at his weight class, champion, WBA, fighting Ricardo Nunes tomorrow. Nunes, pretty Nunes, however you pronounce his last name, pretty good. They're fighting in, Davis's home city of Baltimore. Nunes, pretty good, 21-2. Doesn't really have any really big names on his, resume. Doesn't have Wikipedia page. However, anytime Gervonta Davis fights, it's always a big deal. He's always been a really, really good guy. He's been a part of the, you know, he was one of kind of, Floyd's guys, you know, like, that he kind of pinpointed as, like, being this guy's, like, can be the future. He had him on the undercard of him and, you know, Conor McGregor. He's had him on his undercards before. Very, very good guy. He's been around the scene, like, for a while. He's still only 24. Has a lot of potential to be, like, very, very, very good in his career. He's really good now, but I mean, like, all time at that weight class, potentially good, because he's only 24 and he's already doing incredible things. I feel like this is kind of a gimme for him in his hometown. Obviously I've been wrong before. Upsets happen all the time. I think this is going to be a really clear win for Gervonta Davis. Am I wrong? Is it just me?
I think you're right. Absolutely right.
So if you were to if we give a prediction, what do you think? Via stoppage or?
This shit's getting stopped.
Yeah. He only has one fight that was not a stoppage, and that was years ago. And I believe both of his losses, Noon's losses, are via KO. They're both via stoppage, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I know at least one's via KO, and I think the other one might be like DQ or something. But regardless, both via finish. He's beat a lot of guys that don't have big names, guys that aren't very good, but also a lot of his wins are knockouts, so there's going to be a lot of swinging and banging. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for however long as it goes, but I feel like it's going to be a really clear Gervonta Davis knockout in his hometown.
That's fun for him.
Defending his title, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good fight. Also, we have another fight. We also have at super lightweight. We got Maurice Hooker versus Jose Carlo Ramirez. I'm pretty sure both their belts are on the line, so that should be another exciting fight. Undercard-wise, I don't know who's all on that. Can't verify that right now at this time, but that's another big fight, another big boxing match we have this weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Ramirez there.
I'm definitely gonna watch it for sure. Prediction-wise, I don't want to make one right now because I wasn't prepared for that. Come on. I guess I'll take Ramirez too. Hooker's no joke though. I mean, granted, the guy has 3 ties, and ties in boxing and just in general, they're an interesting thing. So we'll have to see what happens on the scorecards when it comes to the end.
Yeah.
Those are spread out throughout his career, though. I will say that one's been in more recent years. One of them was literally his first fight, and then one was at some point right before he made that big jump into his career. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Is there anything else in the world of boxing that I'm missing?
Not for this week. We'll leave it for next week. Nothing too relevant at this point.
All right.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, we have a little bit more to talk about, but I really quickly want to talk about Target. Because Target is one of the greatest stores today. Doesn't matter if you're buying online or buying in store. It's quality with good prices. Target is one of the sponsors that allows us to bring a quality podcast each and every single week. If you buy a link on a Podbean, it helps support us. And you get something we want as well. Target, expect more, pay less. Last week we were, as you guys know, I'm not sure you guys know this, we've only talked about it a lot on our Twitters and Instagram, and we had a whole episode for it, but we were at the Big 3 last week. Media thing. I'm going to allow Angel to talk about his thoughts real quick in a minute, but there were a lot of good games, and coming out of that week, Carlos Boozer got dropped by the Ghost Ballers and proceeded to get signed to the he got signed by Power. Power, as we all know, is coming off a big win last week. Angel, I kind of want to get your thoughts because you weren't allowed on the special episode because that was kind of like an impromptu thing by me. What were your thoughts on the Big 3 in Kansas City? Thoughts about the media? Thoughts about a lot of stuff that happened that day?
I mean, as we go on and talk, and I get your thoughts too. I mean, I heard I listened to that whole podcast, by the way, in my free time. And overall, first of all, I know you mentioned a lot of these things, so I'm probably going to be repeating a lot of things throughout the podcast. But from first of all, we were so unqualified to be there, like you said, multiple times while we were there. We were I'd probably say the only more independent group in the sense of not coming from a big writing website or from some big media outlet, right?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And we were probably the youngest people there too. At least media was. Getting in was interesting. I thought we were gonna, maybe get something mailed to our house that would give us a special pass where we would go through a side door. We show it to security. Security would guide us to where we get our credentials for whatever. Ended up not being like that. We had to enter from the opposite side of the building, which. We had to go in at that point. We showed our email to the lady. The lady was like, all right, where she was scanning tickets. And then very easily a very easy way to sneak in. Interesting to me. And then we proceeded to go to bag check security area where we got stopped, and that was mentioned in the clip at the start of our podcast, if I remember right, a special one, in which, well, I wish we could have recorded that actually, because I think that would have actually made for great audio. Now thinking about it, we should have just recorded our whole experience going in, and we were stopped there. They were commenting on my little bag, whether or not it was a backpack or not. She's like, "Is this a bag?" I'm pretty sure this is a backpack. She asked the other security guy there. I don't know why, but that moment's engraved in my head. And she's like, "I don't know, I think it is." Whatever, right? And she's like, "All right, whatever." So they were gonna let me through. They were just gonna, zip me. And then she pointed out Josh, and she's like, "You can't bring that in here." And Josh had a very decently sized backpack with him. And my boy Josh was like, "What?" And then we weren't. We got a ride there, and we didn't have a car with us. So they were like, you take that back to the car. I'm like, and I look at Josh. I'm like, we don't say anything, but we exchange looks. Like, what are we gonna do? He's like, all right. And then at some point, some other main guy comes over here. He talks whatever, and then in between that, at some point, I mentioned we're media, and then the lady's like, well, you should just start off with that. And I'm like, God, girl, like you were right there. You could have heard us. So that was interesting. We were able to get through that. And then we went to this little side table with two guys. They just had a list with emails and names. And I'm pretty sure, because I looked at the list, and they had our name, first name, last name, email, and something else. I think he had something else in it. We might have written it down. And we literally just gave them our name, did not ask for any form of ID or identification, and they gave us a media pass, and that was it. So if I was anybody else, I could have gone over to the table and said I was Josh Limanoff, and got my media pass. And so yeah, we get our media pass. A guy who's there who helps with that, I forgot his name. I feel really bad. He was there. He kind of guided us through the whole he guided us through the whole place. Told us what kind of accommodations we had, what tools we had at our disposal. Took the elevator down because we were ground level at the Sprint Center. Showed us where the food was, so food was catered for us, so that was nice. Showed us the media room, and then obviously we went out to the court. We were able to walk on the court, and then for a fair bit amount of time, we didn't notice we were standing next to Ice Cube for I want to say maybe 5-10 minutes, and we didn't even know that. And then
his back was to us though. That's not our fault. That's not our fault.
That was not our fault, but either
I would not have expected the 5'6" guy with like a hat on to be Ice Cube with his back to us. So.
Yeah, and then they asked us to move over to side, just not to make it crowded. At that point, I think Three's company and then the team we were going to play against were on the floor shooting, and just to warm up. We were there for a while. We saw that. We saw players from other teams come in and out, sign autographs, people yelling at the fans. And at some point in between that, Ice Cube and his guard, and I would assume might have been his lady, walked by, and then, like I mentioned, Ice Cube smells very nice. I could have literally touched Ice Cube, and in that moment I would have got tackled and died. But that's how close Ice Cube was to us. So, he went by. A lot of the players came out. We saw Big Baby come out, so that was cool. We were out there when he was warming up. Got a lot of love from the crowd. A lot of love there, honestly, for all the players. It was so fun. And then, we kind of stood out there. We had a lot of fun. We were on the court. I mean, that was super dope. I mean, probably one of the only times we'll ever be on a court like that and then be at, ground level at the Sprint Center. That's a big deal to us. And then at that point, we went back, watched the games. For the first game, I wanted to watch it on the TV in the room where they had food. 1, because I was hungry. 2, because I wasn't excited for that game. And also, since the way the Big Three does their media press conferences, it's not at the end of all three. Like, it's not all 3 games end, and then we talk to the winning team. It's winning team. There's like a good maybe like couple minutes in between. Then went back to the locker room. Getting ice, drink of water, whatever. And then they come to the media room, and then we're there, and then the other game is, they get warmed up, and then and we could potentially miss part of the other game. So, I just wanted to see how much time would be in between that transition. Me and Josh sat down in the room, kind of wrote down some thoughts and ideas, whatever, right? And took advantage of that. I took advantage of the food, ate some food, ate a sandwich, ate a cookie, drank some water, ate one bag of chips, avoided any soda because I don't drink any soda whatsoever. Went to the media room, experienced that. I'll talk about my overall media experience in a second. And, we saw how the transition kind of went. We went back out, watched the game outside. We were at the kind of decently up on the seats, kind of looked down at the game. Had a lot of fun watching the game. Once again, took some questions, some clips. Then went back down. Went back to media room, did our media thing, whatever. Then for the final game, we decided not to go back up just because, whatever. We stood out like court level, watched the game from before. Really fun game. Both last two games were really fun. Once again, and then going back to media, did our thing there. And then as soon as that game ended, we were out of there. We were just out. We left as soon as we could. And yeah. And then as a whole, the media, like I said, being brought in, guys were super nice. Tools available to us, once again, were great. And for the most part, all the people there who were with media were with the Big Three well, not even for the most part. We're all nice, yeah. I had no issues with any of them. They had no issues with us. We made everything super easy for them. They made everything super easy for us. Obviously, I didn't know, how much power we have, didn't have, what we couldn't do, and what we can do. They told us a couple things, obviously, and kind of gave us a whole little breakdown. So we had a very good idea of what we couldn't do, which wasn't a lot, and a lot of it that we couldn't do obviously made sense. It was logical. But media-wise, in the media room, it was cool. It was crowded. It was a smaller group with us in there. I didn't mention this. I love, reading about sports. I love reading the news or, anything sports related. But I will say this. I fucking hate press conferences. And the one thing I hate it for is the reporters. I'm not saying any names out there or any specific group. But I always hated some of the questions some reporters ask, or some media asks. I just think they're so fucking shitty. They just don't have anything to do with anything relevant. They just suck. Obviously, some of them that aren't necessarily related to the game are fine to ask. Like the barbecue question. Like I thought that was, I thought that was nice. I thought that was fun. I didn't have an issue with that one. But there were some other ones that I had a couple issues with, and some people there I wasn't a fan of, kind of just like the real work world. Some people you work with you just don't like, you just don't get along with it, and there was people there. But I was just not a fan of certain things that were asked. The way they had media set up where it was kind of free ball, everybody can just speak and ask a question. I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought they were going to have a mic or something, or they were going to point people out, and ask, hey, stand up and ask your question, kind of type of scenario. Which I wish would have been more like that. I thought it would have been a little bit better structured, and it would have allowed, I guess, some more people and us to ask questions. Sadly, we didn't get to ask any questions, but we did want to. We did have some in mind. It was just the way they had that set up. It just made it a little bit difficult for us. Obviously, us, kind of being the first time, us being in that kind of media setting made it harder for us to want to ask questions. And we did have intention of asking questions. I know you did, Josh, and I know I wanted to, but it just ended up not going that way. But like I said, I had, for the actual media, I had some choice words, because I actually did want to ask some very basketball, related questions, because there really wasn't many asked at all related to basketball. They were very broad, open, questions, and I really wanted to ask some more narrowed down, specific game questions. But it ended up just being like that. Overall, my experience was fun with the Big Three. If they ever come back, I hope they allow us to go back in, because it was an amazing experience. It was really fun. Just being in that room with all the players, literally being inches away from all the players was awesome. I honestly was I posted on my Instagram, it's just amazing, once in a lifetime opportunity. I took the day off from work. I was even going to take a day off. Well, I wasn't going to take off the day, but I was going to leave school early because I'm doing a summer class, a summer course. But luckily I was blessed. My teacher was in there. I went in there, took my test, passed my test, and ended up having to leave early, which is amazing. Made my life so much easier. So, things just ended up working out right for me, and it was just great. It was awesome overall. And like I said, my experience was just awesome. I don't know if there's anything you want me to specifically answer, Josh, or any specific thoughts on any particular thing, but that's just kind of my whole overview on the whole thing.
Yeah, something I didn't mention in my thoughts about it. There were, you mentioned certain people asking certain questions, which you were not a fan of. I wasn't a fan of that either. I think that there's an issue with certain reporters that they just wanna, their job, they feel like is to start drama and to start, you know, asking stuff that's not related to it. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But in the words of Nick Diaz, where I come from, people like that get slapped. You know what I mean? Like just starting drama, trying to start stuff between players. I don't like that. I think that's a really trashy way of journalism, and you can't call yourself a journalist if that's what you do. And whatever, and that's fine. If you want to get your break that way, that's cool. Just don't call yourself a journalist and just don't be a dick to people. You know what I mean? That's all I ask. But whatever, they're probably better than me. They have more Instagram followers, so they're higher priority. Whatever. That's just a little rant I wanted to go on, but overall, a super fun experience. I feel like you kind of encapsulated a lot of it pretty well. I hope they come back here next season. I feel like they would. I feel like our crowd was really, really awesome. I saw the game the following day at OKC, and it could be because OKC is a basketball town, but there wasn't a whole lot of, not really people there. There was a decent crowd, but there wasn't a whole lot of excitement. The last two games, Sprint Center was going crazy, really, really loud, really fun arena. So I hope they come back here. I think they probably will. So yeah, it was a really, really fun day. Do you have any more thoughts, or do you want me to wrap up?
I mean, just to quickly mention the last couple of things, I thought it was a great turnout. At first when we got there, we're like, damn, there's really not that many people. But then once the game started, I mean, it got pretty packed, man. It was actually pretty full. So that made it really fun. It was loud. I mean, I don't think it was as loud as it could have been, but it was definitely loud. Nothing compared to when we went to watch the UFC. And granted, the UFC, and that filled up the whole place, I mean, there's only filled up,
the top section was tarped off.
Yeah, they had that tarped off. So yeah, it's not like they could fill up the whole place even if they wanted to. And like I said, I mean, it was a cool experience. It was different. Like I said, I have my opinions about certain things that were there, but it was nothing related to the Big Three. Overall, the Big Three themselves and the people there at the Big Three were all kind, like I said, and all cool. It was a great experience. And I'm not saying that because if they're listening to this or, whatever. I truly, mean, they made the process, except for maybe entering, it's my only opinion, easy. Everything was very easy to use and have access to. And very fun. It was fun being down there. So thank you to them. Thank you to everybody who was there. And thank you for the Big Three once again for the opportunity. It was just really fun. I just words can't even describe the whole feeling. Even just now, looking at the pictures, the message I left on my Instagram, and it being my most liked thing I've ever posted on Instagram, was crazy. And to all the people who are my friends and family who listen to podcasts, all the love I got, I appreciate it. Definitely not deserved by any means. Just out there trying to have fun. And I think I said it on my Instagram. I was like, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter. I'm not any of that. I'm just some guy who likes talking about sports and just happen to be in that situation. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say.
Yeah, it was definitely it was an awesome opportunity. We both got a lot of love from Instagram, from Facebook, from friends and people that listen to the podcast, and it was amazing, and I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. I was definitely out of my element, which surprised me.
Both of us.
Just how much I felt out of my element. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna feel good about this, and I got into there. And I saw Amari Stoudemire practicing during the shoot around, and the crowd was getting full. I'm like, damn, this is a big deal. This is a Sprint Center. I'm walking on a basketball court at the Sprint Center. But ended up being really, really cool, very fun experience. The Big Three, great media team that got there. Very, very friendly, welcoming guys. And I guess that kind of wraps up my thoughts. And I gave a lot of my thoughts, the special episode, which I hope turned out well. I kind of tried to, there wasn't a whole lot I could do in terms of audio because you and I didn't get to record that much because our phones were, having issues. And I tried to make it as good as I could. I thought it turned out pretty okay. I listened to it myself. I thought it was alright. But it was a really fun experience. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. I was super grateful. Still am. And I guess thank you guys for all of you that have listened to the podcast. That was the 20th episode. This is the 21st. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to keep on going. Maybe we have more opportunities in the future to do stuff like that. That'd be really cool. But I'm not really counting on it. But I guess we'll see what happens.
I push for luck. Maybe next time we'll be at a, I don't know, KU game or something crazy. Who knows?
Maybe, man. Maybe.
Maybe football? I don't know. I don't think we have that kind of clout yet, but,
I don't think we got that clout.
We were able to make it into Big Three, and we didn't think we'd get into that, so it's not impossible.
It is not impossible. I guess that kind of wraps up the podcast this week. Thank you guys for listening. At Courtside Sound 1 on Twitter, at Courtside Soundoff on Instagram. I'm at Josh Shimanoff on Twitter, and he's at Angel_Ortega_01. Thanks you guys for all the love and continuous support. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you guys continue to join in the future. Peace and bug grease. Mouse click.